In today's world, we only watch the endings, a flashy success story or the brutal collapse. But we don't hear about the full journey that it took to get there. The late nights, tough calls, moments of doubt. On In Between Sips, we dive deep into the raw, unfiltered stories of what these business owners and leaders have been through and who they became along the way. So pull up a chair, pour a cup, and join us. We're just getting started. Because we all know the best conversations happen in between sips. Cheers, my friend.
Cheers, man.
This is the very first time on the show that we were able to do a cheers with the owner of a Cheers. Double cheers, right? But thanks for coming on, Nick. It's good to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me, man. It's an honor, pleasure.
Yeah, it's a crazy full circle moment. We were just kind of discussing before we were rolling. We should have been rolling the whole time, but we were discussing before just the entrepreneurship life and kind of how we got to know each other. But man, it's just been so exciting to hear everything you're doing. It's crazy how close the bars that you own are.
Yeah.
So I know we got a lot to dig into, but yeah, let's start there. Let's just jump right into it. You know, you're the owner of Cheers, right?
Yeah,
right
yeah. So I'm the owner of Cheers here in Glendale.
Yeah.
It's on 59th Avenue in Bell. I'm also the owner of Charlie's Place on 43rd Avenue in Thunderbird. Both bars, iconic in a way that has, been around for 40 plus years. So it's been a staple in Glendale, for the most part. So.
And you thought to yourself, like, you always wanted to own a bar, right? Is that
what's funny? It's just like life, life hits, right? Like I remember we were in college and, we were just talking about it upstairs. It's like you went for political science and then we were in anthropology. You succeeded. I dropped out.
I don't know if I succeeded because I didn't even do anything related to politics.
Yeah, ended up not doing it, but you still want to run. And so what ended up happening is I kind of, my, I wouldn't say like breakthrough, but my first scaling type of business was actually developing a facial fitness tool, gum, in a company called Jawliner back in 2021. And from there, we grew it X amount of dollars. And then at that point, I was like, I've always dreamed about doing like a brick and mortar, but I wasn't sure which brick and mortar because the success rate and the failure rate I had to assess. And it's very difficult to, there's a very high risk rate on brick and mortar. And I told myself, I said, if I'm going to do a brick and mortar, what am I going to do where I can actually give back to the community, get to know people, because I don't want to like have necessarily like a burger joint. And not to say anything that's bad or negative. I think all businesses are great, but I wanted a business where you can actually create emotional connection between you and the patron, you and the guest, you and the customer. It ends up being more than just a customer. It ends up being friends, family, and stuff like that. Yeah. So then I looked at it, and also you look at that principle of what you love to, what you want to do, but then all of a sudden I also looked at, well, with this economy, with things always tailing and shifting, what is low on, controlled labor rates? What is it? You could evolve the business in a sense. What's kind of recession proof? What has high margins? All these played a factor why I got into the bar business and why I chose it. I always wanted to go back into the bed industry, and it's still an option, but the bar business, it just happened to be. Spoke to a broker. We're looking at various businesses, and he said, I think what you're trying to look for actually falls into the play of the bar industry, and that was back in 2023, summertime. So
and it's fascinating because you said an emotional business, but you were sharing with me before, which I found was fascinating. Whenever you take over a business like that has emotional ties, bars, you said barbershops, anything else that's got like a, an owner operator is like the relationship builder of the business. You said account for 30% losses straight out of the gate.
I think when that's learning curves, right? You buy it, if you're not from the industry, whether you are or not, those are just now future principles that you have to lean on when you're doing your due diligence process before you get in any business. You have to research how connected the owners are, how connected the industry is. And what I find it's a little bit of both, connected with the owner, but also just the nature of change. Being in an emotional connected environment, people don't like change. It happens. So immediately when we bought it, when we bought Cheers, the drop was immediate, 20-30%. You're not planning that in budget. I mean, 20-30% on average is quite challenging. So, but yeah, those are the things that and we saw it again when we bought Charlie's. So then we figure out, it was like, hey, this isn't just, you know, couple brick and mortars that just happen to be that way. This is how it's gonna be with any business that you take, that you have a local awareness has been a staple. You're gonna see that drop. And then you had to put in plans in place and then get it back to where it needs to be at, you know, from where it was at, and then year over year growth. But that was challenging. So that's something I didn't.
Yeah, and I know you touched on it earlier, because I would love to hear more about Jawliner, just in the nature of the business we're in online. So we'll back up to that later. But just to kind of lean into this with the bar business, you know, so you first take over. Did you take over Cheers or Charlie's first?
Cheers first.
Cheers.
Yeah.
And what was the first couple months like? I mean, walk me through what was going through your thoughts, your mind, the staffing, the specials, the retooling of things. I know you said you tried retooling a few things.
Yeah.
Didn't work, so you had to adjust. I mean,
the
first 90 days were probably a whirlwind at Cheers.
It was. Because you're trying to. So I didn't come from a bar background, so you're basically jumping on a wild horse and you don't know where you're gonna go, which direction, man. Like, you're trying to go straight, and I guess it's like that with all businesses, right? They're never a straight linear line. It's jagged.
Yeah.
And it's chaos. So what I think that struck me the most the first 90 days was probably when anytime a new owner steps in, the local community is extremely nervous that you're going to make some changes. And what are those changes?
They probably had a lot of regulars, right? I mean, that bar's been there for what, 30 years?
40 years.
Wow.
Yeah, both bars have been 40 years.
Same owner?
No,
Cheers.
But what's funny is both businesses, I'm like the fourth owner, so it hasn't been a lot of changes, like a lot of changing hands.
Yep.
So that's good. So that means that so
you had some regulars and all that.
Yeah, there's some regulars and stuff like that. So the first thing I got into when I first got to Cheers was, what changes are you going to make? You know, and then they're watching me as an individual, what kind of person I am too, because that's what they're grown to accustomed to from the previous ownership. You know, from the relationship standpoint, am I going to really want to support this guy, and what does he stand for? So a lot of that is who I am. It is what it is as an open book. But the changes, I had to immediately talk to go around, shake hands, talk to every single local as much as possible, and say, hey, we're going to make changes good. Change is inevitable. It's no different from the air we breathe each day. But what change benefits them? So it's a lot of, believe it or not, sales kind of influence, kind of like influencing the neighborhood community 1A as a project, right? So it's like a project, influence everyone, but have all the regulars buy into me. So then buy into what we strive for, what we're trying to change, and why we're putting money in there. Because the reality is the business itself is great. I have nothing to say anything in the past. I think we all, everyone's worked hard from there on to get it to where it's at presently. But we needed some change, some minor, some major. You know, technology needed a boost. Marketing needed a start in a sense. The staff just got to make sure things are compatible, that they share the same vision. So all these are all happening within the 90 days. But the first things first was, you know, corralling all the customers and making sure, hey, you know, here's we're local. We're new, but I'm local. I'm here. We work very hard to get where we're at, and I'm here to continue serving you guys for many years to come. Because at first they're like, oh, you must become you're an investor, you're going to do this, but do whatever it is, and you're just going to flip it, right? So there's a lot of noise. And in that industry, there's a lot of communication that gets distorted easily, and good and bad. And you've been
in this area for 20 plus years, your whole life. I
mean, Phoenix native, went to Cortez, went to ASU. Local, 100% local. Yeah, go Devils.
I feel like we could do that now that the football team's irrelevant. We're like, okay, here we go.
Yeah, about time. So I feel really good about it. And so then when the word spreads around, we're like, hey, it's family operated, mom and pop. It wasn't long before everyone started. And as a matter of fact, when they found out sometimes there's disagreements on previous owners or new owners, whatever, people's curiosity strike a little bit, and they end up trying to give the place a try again or whatever, right? And then we ended up getting quite a bit of lead gen that comes through, new traffic. And then now looking back at it's great. So, but the first 90 days was quite difficult because you had to wear so many different hats, and you can't be okay and so on each hat. You had to be great at every hat, but but your margin of error was so low. Like we couldn't afford to try something out and go 3 steps backwards because we were already 10 steps backwards to begin with.
Yeah.
So whatever we did was very calculated, was very well thought out. We would use a patio as kind of like a war room, the lab, and then we would do a lot of brainstorming with selected members of the team, myself, other people, and then really have these robust strategies that we needed to put in place for us to be successful. We made it happen. Like, we didn't wait for it to come to us. So not wait for our bars and business I've done. That's always been the mentality. You don't wait. You have to go for it. So
How long have you been married?
Since 2016, but I've been with my lovely wife since we were in college.
Yep.
See that same one, 2017.
No, that's
a little beautiful, and she's fantastic. So
I love it. I asked because, you know, as entrepreneurs and business owners and leaders, it's like the pull that it has on the family, you know, and your wife and kids, and it's just one of those things where you just kind of in those moments, you know, what was her thought or what was thoughts going through as you're like, hey, I'm going to buy a bar, or I want us to buy a bar. You know, what is
that's such a very that's a great question, by the way. It hits all cylinders because you know, you sometimes you look at the business side as one, but the most important everything is your spouse. Like everything you do centers around your spouse. Everything. She's been luckily, this is funny we saw, because she's been with me since we were in college. And so what did she think of it? I think there's always fear. Because we could have done things differently with our finances. And I sat there and say, hey, rather than just improve our lives and live better, let's go ahead and take the biggest risk of our lives and go buy a bar. And I don't know, of course, she's not going to be happy with it, but I think she's seen me do enough shenanigans where if I believe in it, she knows I can do it. She's been my
this isn't your
#1
first
supporter.
rodeo. Like
she's been there from every step of the way. So, but yeah, it's annoying, I'm sure. Many wives, like when you got to deal with guys are a little bit over the hill when it comes to the motor, but she's been great. So great question. So
we're not over the hill yet.
Cheers to my wife.
We're not over the hill yet, man. We still got plenty of motor, right?
She's great.
No, that's good.
Good question. No, she's just been a huge supporter.
Yeah.
Agree, disagree. You know, we communicate about it, and so far it's been great. So
and that's what I hear time and time again, even in my own life. It's, you know, when we first started Strivena, it was like, you know, prayed about it, talked about it for a while. Super young at the time. I look back on it, I'm like, oh my gosh. But there's just something innate in you, you know, in business that you're like, as an entrepreneur, like I didn't know that I was an entrepreneur. I didn't know what to call it because I thought I would just follow the chain of command and work my way up in companies. But it was, you know, she's a rock. My wife's been a rock. And I remember waking up and it was like, hey, here's your lunch. Here's your coffee. I'll see you in a long time. Like, okay, you know, that's how it was. There was a lot of, sacrifice of time. But, you know, as you look back on it and then you think, okay, there's a lot of that in the grind work. There's a lot of the days where it's 15, 16, 17. It's like, it's like, you know, and so it's not just draining on the owners to just keep pushing or the people that think they have an idea. It's like, no, it's a family investment. It really is. You know, and it's fun to look back on it and to like, I think about all the time, like, man, I made so many mistakes early on that if I just would have known. But the interesting part about that is we only know that they're mistakes because we made them.
You did. You were forced in some regards. If you're going to try to chase something, it's inevitable. It's not, you know, those are the things I wish. I had great mentors, by the way, my whole life. And, you know, one of the things you end up learning experience is, you know, you just got to jump. You got to jump. Just take the risk. Don't even look twice. If the opportunities make sense and, you know, jump and say you're having a hard time to, you know, all the doors you're knocking, you know, just know that God's redirecting you for better things, you know, and I just,
amen.
Yeah, exactly. And to me, you know, it's just phenomenal to hear stuff like that coming, you know, what our family, our friends and, you know, play a huge role in this whole thing. And when you go through that journey, you're forced to wear every hat possible because it's like a whack-a-mole. 1 minute you're like, okay, it's going to be fine today.
So
and then you look at it and you say, you know, because people who come out, they get, they're very motivated because they want to step outside kind of the social norms of, like working your 9 to 5. They want more freedom and flexibility. And it's the total opposite. So here you are, you think that in the beginning, I think as you get to, you know, you go from level 1, 2, 3, 5 levels, you get up to level 2, 3. Yeah, there's more automation flexibility, and then you can reap some of the rewards. But in that first initial thing, especially when you don't have much, you don't have backing from maybe family, you don't have investors, you're doing from scratch. Yeah, bank on that. Your commitment, soul obligation is you will work 16-hour days.
Yep.
You will sacrifice. You're not going to see your loved ones. You're not going to have a social life.
Yep.
And those are the things that people don't see. They just see what's above the iceberg.
Yep.
They don't see the 30 feet further down under the abyss. All the things that, the perseverance, the struggle, the challenges, all the crazy, tough parts of that iceberg. No one sees that. And those are the things at night you sit there and say, are we going to even make it? Are we going to do this? Or gosh, we just dealt with this. And then you wear these hats and you're like, okay, it's just not, for me, it's like, okay, operations is one thing. Then you got to wear the hats of marketing and legal, then accounting, and finance. This is just, you have to be, you can't be less than, you have to be well-versed in all of them. And so you go through lots of potholes. You're driving and you're just like, oh, I think it's one pothole. No, sir. You're going through 7 days of that pothole as an entrepreneur. There ain't no days off.
There's no days off.
It's just a matter of that work balance, which is true. I've worked at places they say work balance integration. Yeah, sure. But you have to force time, put it on your planner that you will have dinner dates. You will have time with your kids. You will, I guess, like during the whole process of entrepreneurship, for me, from a personal side, from family, friends, is the time that I end up spending ends up being the highest quality time versus the quantity of time that I used to spend. So to make more deeper connected memories, because when you're doing businesses and you're, what is it? For me, my family thinks I'm crazy. They think I'm nuts. I'm like, no, I just love what you do. The competitive sport of business, right? It's just phenomenal. Like wouldn't change anything in the world, but there's sacrifice. But then, you truly start dialing it back and say, I do need to make sure there's quality time spent with my family, friends. So.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and you brought up mentors too. I mean, I think, so look back on different pieces of advice that mentors give us, or, I remember I could think back, and I had a mentor who was my boss at the time, ironically, when I was working for a company I was at, and he said, hey, I'm going to give you a promotion, but you're going to be bored. This isn't going to solve your problem that you're trying to solve. And I know that because I've been where you are. And I'm like young, just got married. Like, no, bro, like the salary increase is going to be really good.
It's a big deal for me.
Yeah, it's a big deal for me.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, I get that, but you'll be back here in a year and you're going to want more. And I thought to myself, no, I have a great job. Like, it was awesome. The company I worked for, the freedom that they gave me, hey, just make sure there's an ROI in what you're doing in sales and you're fine. Like, spend whatever you need to. Like, there was so much freedom in it. So I was grateful for that. But yeah, it was literally a year later during our annual review. And he said, so what's going on? I was like, yeah, I'm kind of bored. And he was like, I knew it because you're an entrepreneur. And that's when I realized, I was like, I'm a what? Like,
that's
it's
crazy.
like one of those.
So when did that hit? Like, when did that hit? Like, what?
Oh, it was like 23, 24, I think.
23, 24 years old.
Yeah, it was young. I was young and I was just wanting to just keep moving and shaking and going and growing. I felt like I had gotten to the top of this ladder in the company. I just thought, I'm on the wrong building.
At one point, did you ever thought to yourself that maybe something wasn't right with you? Like maybe,
100%.
Maybe it's like maybe I'm.
Why can't I be satisfied with this? I have a salary. I have a company car. I have a company
Still
cell
not
phone.
happy.
I'm doing 2-a-day workats when I want. Like, I just got married. We didn't have any kids. Like, I had so much freedom, free time.
Yeah.
We got to go on, my wife and I were fortunate to do just like day trips or overnight trips whenever we want on the weekend. Like, and so I did think there's something wrong with me. I was like, but like all this is a blessing, right? Like, am I just kind of looking this gift horse in the mouth?
Or is it could be a curse?
Yeah. And so that is an interesting question. Looking back on it, there were times where I was just like, why can't I just be happy? And I think there's a difference too, as you learn as an owner, like, well, the work I do should be for Christ, not for the business. And so I think there was a point where I definitely lost my identity in business, not in Christ.
That's
right.
interesting.
And that struggle of like, I didn't realize it was my identity at the time was how I did in business. But I think just being so competitive, and you brought up like the competitive business landscape is fun and it's addicting because once you have success, it's like, I want to keep that motor going. But yeah, there is a fine balance there too.
Yeah, that's very interesting. It is. Yeah, it is. It is. It is a fine balance because you do. It's funny you said that because I went through that, and I think when you have a different motor that you always want to strive for, why settle for less? You should always maximize everything what you do in yourself and in life, because you're only going to affect the people around you. You're going to follow faith. And I don't see why. I guess we're built, I guess that's a curse. Maybe it's boring, maybe. But when you said loss and identity, I went through that. I went through the same thing. You start to sit there and be like, man, this is why the business, why this, and why am I doing this? And then you had to pull yourself back. Same thing, mid-20s around. I think there's a psychology aspect too for guys that you go through this identity crisis stage from like 21, 25. You don't really know what you want to be. Then you end up finding yourself. So I'm in the same boat around 24, 27. I started saying, this is who I am. You have outside noise saying that you should do this, you should do that. This is who you should be. And I ended up just jumping and accepting who I was, I guess, because you get a little lost. You're like, what do I want to do? Am I doing the things right? Then also you do, you're like, you hit that milestone. You're like, you're still not happy.
Yep.
You're like, well, I just achieved that. I just built a business. I just did a brick and mortar. And well, why are you not happy?
Yeah.
Then you look at it and you say, it's not that I'm not happy. It's that I wasn't able for me to control myself where I can get myself in a good place where I'm peaceful.
Yeah.
That I accept for what it is and I live my life present, not looking backwards. You always look at back and you think about the past, and it causes a lot of, a little bit of depression. You're a little depressed, you learn things, but you're sad about it. But then you think about the future, you get the jitters, you're anxious, you're nervous. So I learned throughout that I need to live in the present. I need to chase peace. And then, I can't control what I can't control, but I make the most of it each minute, each day. And one of the mentors told me, it stuck with me for many years, is he was older, in his 70s, very successful, had many different businesses and stuff like that. And I told him, I asked him a question. I said, what is one thing you can give me for advice, right? For a guy that's, I'm hoping we're still young, and guy that's like, going in his mid-age, middle of the road. And he says, I would trade, it wasn't like necessarily advice. I guess it was like a statement, and it stuck me forever. I was like, oh my gosh, man, it's like, you don't want to waste time. Just every day, man, make it like it's the last. And he says, he's 76 or something around there. He said, I would trade everything I have, everything I own, everything I could at this point, to trade it in to live again at your age one time. And it's just one of those moments you sit back, you're like, he could have said anything. He could have said, you would have done this, or leadership, when you do this, when you scale. He didn't talk about business. He just talked about, like, you get one, like, how many shots can you actually get in life, and us not enjoying it while where you're at any age, right? But for us, you do have a little bit more time or whatever it is. You don't take that for granted. So when he said that, I looked at things very differently. But he would trade everything in to live again in his 20s, or live again in his 30s, or live again in his 40s.
Yeah.
So very valuable tool. So
yeah, so often we're so focused on the end goal and we miss the journey.
100%.
Right. It's like, well, we haven't hit the goal yet, and we're driving. It's like, well, but the point is that the path you're on is enjoyable.
Exactly.
And you need to enjoy it. You need to learn and grow. But that makes you think.
It is. But
man. So your two businesses deep right now. Walk me through the online business a little bit, though. Let's go back to that, because that was before the brick and mortars. So walk me through kind of inception, the years, because you probably hit the online market really when things were kind of taking off anyway, nicely, right?
Yeah, I actually stumbled on it, and then it happened to be that it was in the path of ramp during that time. I ran into it because before the online business, I worked for a dog daycare for corporate. I traveled all over the United States for like 7 years. And
for dog daycare?
Dog daycare, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, you drop the dog off and play like children. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty interesting,
That's cool.
Yeah. Well, it's like dog, you at the daycare provide, they get socialization, education, exercise, but then they also do boarding and spas. So like great. I had a good time with the company. But
what did you do for them specifically? When you were traveling a lot.
Yeah, I was right. I moved into the director's role, and then ended up being in a role where I kind of oversaw parts of real estate, did MMA, stuff like that, mergers.
Okay.
But I wore the hat of real estate and construction for about a year and a half. But before that, I wore all the hats for operations.
Yeah.
No marketing yet, just operations. Like kind of like their coach, like their business coach, looking at finances, KPIs, stuff like that, the normal stuff. But previous to that, my first entrepreneurial thing ever was when I was 19. We were in college, and I bought a vending route. I was serving and working at Walgreens as a photo guy, and then going to ASU and not doing
real
good.
quick. Walgreens as a photo guy.
Photo guy.
What's the weirdest thing you saw? I gotta know.
Yeah, well, nothing bad.
Okay.
But I would say weirdest stuff. You see a lot of different things. I can't.
Was it weird to like look the customer, like knowing what you printed and put in a package for them, and then them coming to pick it up? Did you feel like you had a glimpse into some of their soul a little bit? Like,
yeah. I felt so powerful because you're invading their privacy, and there's nothing they could do because they have to go through me to print their photos.
And you have to know, like, hey, you and I both know what's in this package right there.
It's like don't make me, with the roles, right? And so yeah, that was fun. So I spent a little bit of time there, and then I said, you know what? Because I'm like third. So people say, well, how are you going to own a business? Well, I also grew up in the family, third generation of Vietnamese merchants. Like, so my dad was a merchant in Saigon.
Walk me through what that is. What does that look like when you say merchant?
Business
okay.
owners.
Yeah.
So, my dad had in it's Ho Chi Minh City now, but in Saigon before the war, 3 generations of like jewelry, convenience stores, or whatever downtown. Yeah, so it's always smart. They're not like glamorous. It's just your mom and pop upstairs. You sleep, come downstairs, and then you trade. And so I've always grown into the business side.
That's cool.
So it's always been fun to see that through my father and my grandfather and stuff like that. But when I was 19, I did vending records. You're looking at trying to make some money, and when you're a kid, you're starting out, you try and pay for books, tuition.
Oh, yeah.
So bought a vending route, and that was my first stint. And then when I was 20 years old, that's like 2008. I gambled and bought like a Poor Brothers route. It's like Poor Brother chips. They're not around anymore, but
they're great chips. I don't know why they're not.
I don't know. Like they bring some back.
Yeah.
And then it ended up being bought out by Snyder's in 2010. I ended up selling that, and that was a franchise. So that was my first dibs in franchise when I was like 22.
You just bought a vending route one day.
Then I bought a Poor Brothers route.
And then they acquired you? Or
yeah, the Poor Brothers acquired, by Snyder Lance. That then ended up.
And you were 19?
I was 21.
That's awesome.
Yeah, about that. Bought my first rental home because everything collapsed. All the houses were cheaper than cars.
Yep.
So I got into that, and then did your normal work career stuff. I worked at Fresh and Easy for store manager, so I got that. Went back to school, finished, and then when I got out of school, Fresh and Easy it was kind of closing up. Great company from Tesco, massive layoffs, and then that's where I was forced to buy a bread business in 2015, which is the Bimbo Bakeries, which I own right now. I have one, and so I was in that game for a long time. Got out of it for a few years, got back in, and so what I'm trying to say is my introduction to entrepreneurial life was in my early 20s. And then from there, I was working corporate, blah, 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 traveling. And then in 2019, I told myself, talking to a bunch of different franchisees, business owners, lots of different mentors, they all said the same thing. They're like, you have to find out if you're looking at anything that exchanges, if you have some service, it's something that's like versus product, you have something that's tangible, that's in your hand. If you can find the supply chain behind it, then you're always going to have endless gold. I said, okay, what the hell does that mean? And then I was like, all these riddles. And well, just tell me what it is, right? And then later, mentors after that, they said, you have to find supply chains. And this is before Alibaba took off and other different like global logistic trading companies. And then, so I got on 2019 and did some fitness products. Bought it. I was like, I noticed. I was like, man, how is this so cheap? And then I sell it for the same. And it just clicked. And then I ended up ordering stuff in 2019, random stuff, like all random stuff, from computer tables to fitness bands because COVID happened and everyone's going to fitness, whole bunch of stuff. And then I got a taste of like success, like true entrepreneurship at its purest form. I bought it for $5, $10, and I sold it for $50. And then I said, oh, man, this is easier money. Like, man, what am I doing here?
This is easier than my route I bought.
Man, jeez. And then then I looked, and so I pulled back because I was working. I was doing all this at the same time. I was working the 9 to 5, but then I was also working on my days off. And then there's a data thing on eBay. I forgot what it's called, whatever. It's software. It tells you like all the hot sellers, like on all these overall categories, like men's beauty, furniture, lawn and garden, everything, fitness, electronics. And I sit there and then slowly, you got to be careful with electronics because it's always moving. So phase out. You do anything that is digestible with food, you're putting yourself in risk. You do anything with babies, they fall off and you get sued. So then I looked at all that stuff.
That was just a crazy list you rattled off.
Yeah,
because it's all true. Yeah,
it's all true. So you look at because the whole point is like one of the mentors also said that while you're flying a plane, you have a less risk of crashing as long as you equip yourself with more knowledge to fly. So that's the same thing with business. The more you equip yourself with knowledge, the less you're going to crash. Doesn't mean that you're not going to twirl and go smoke, but the less you'll crash. So then all of a sudden I went through this high trending thing, which you got to look at sustainability, longevity, next 5-10 years. How is it going to look? You can't just do it one and done. So learn that. So I looked at men's cosmetics, the beauty industry, and this new trend in 2019, which was to work on your jawline muscles, to define the jawline muscles. What's that? So I was like, you make your jawline, you look better, without, and then I did research. It's like, it's actually a thing, this guy created something that's a ball, put it on his mouth, and then,
I remember that,
he did like 2015, but, all this marketing is like this, and his waterfall is so dramatic.
And it was like the craziest thing. I didn't know if it worked or not. I was like, this is crazy looking.
It is crazy. So, I bought one. They were like a couple dollars or something like that, and I started selling for like $30-$40, and I was selling like 10, 30, 40, 100 a day. And I sat there, and then all of a sudden I got in trouble because I was not supposed to be selling a patented product. So you learn about failure, you start getting in trouble legally in a sense, not really. But so the funny story was the product that beautiful story. It's like the whole turnaround with you and I and all that. Is the beautiful part was, so the guy that did a cease and desist and kicked me off the platform for not supposed to be selling his like product, ended up being that I signed the contract with them to grow the brand with Jawliner.
That's funny.
So he attempted to kick me off, and I said, wait, don't kick me off. Let me join your team, right?
I can sell it.
I can sell it, man. Let me show you. And we end up being great friends, great everything, German partners, one from two of them in Germany.
And you told them like, hey, I'm new to this business. It was a misunderstanding, but I can sell the heck out of this.
I can represent the United States. So, hey, business is not always straightforward. Sometimes you make something out of nothing, and then you just become clever and creative. So I said, hey, I know you are trying to sue me, and I know you're trying to get rid of me, but can I join your team? And he says, we talked through it, and he said, yeah, you know what? Would you? And I said, yeah. I went through this interview process with them to like partners. And then from there on, Jawliner went from $0. And then by 2023, we were trending as a group, as a global group, over 10 million. And a year globally. And then we ended up in the middle of July 2023, we went viral. So we ended up being over 100 different syndications like Rolling Stones, Today Shows, Telemundo, People's Magazine. I mean, the list goes on. So that was pretty cool. So I was able to see a product and go in the media and then speak.
What was that first moment like where you got coverage of something out of nowhere and you're like, hold on, what just happened? What was that like? That first thing you remember?
I still remembered. Yeah, my wife and I were excited. We so they poached us, or not poached, that's a bad word. I guess they came to us and they're like, hey, you're a Jawliner, very straight point, nothing elaborate. They're like, love to do some coverage, right? And I said, okay. And it was the nighttime NBC nightly news with something, whatever. I forgot her name, whatever. But it's one of the major channels.
Yeah.
And that was when all of a sudden, after that major channel comes, media's now getting whiff of it. And then Florida, Texas, I mean, it blew up. And to see the product everywhere, and then to see the product when you press in Jawliner and then press news, and you're going through 100, and you're like, man, that's me, and then that are us. That's awesome. My wife and I, the company. Awesome. We built that from scratch, and it was a win for all of us. And then Germany getting coverage, different countries in Italy, a lot of European, and then that started taking off. So then we grew, then we started expanding in Canada. I expanded in Australia. We spread from the partner side from Europe. They took care of that. I took care of everything on the Americas and also Japan. So you learn from a global standpoint of how to scale and scale rapidly, right? And then the pros and cons that go with it. But Jawline was great. It was it tended to be just a facial fitness silicone tool that became the first developed world's hard chewing gum. And so we're the founders of that particular niche. So that was pretty cool.
Wow.
So then, yeah.
What was did you exit from that, or what was or do you still?
No, we still do it.
You still do it?
We still do it. We're now in development of looking at to innovate, like adding energy into it, caffeine, making the product, looking at it, say all the competitors caught up. That's another thing too. Competitors catch up like within 7 months. Like you learn all this stuff. And so now we're looking at increasing the line and adding supplements to it and making it a little bit more clever on that edge and more portable and personal where it's more convenient. You could take it, we're hoping to target convenience stores where you could take it, still get a nice jawline and still enjoy chewing it. So
wow.
That's the hope.
That's incredible.
We'll get there. Yeah. But
what was that first when you had that first like peak month of revenue where you're like, okay, this is getting real? What was that? Walk me through that emotion, because you're doing 10 million a year. You went viral, globally.
From the United States side, Canada, and Australia, we were approaching 4 to 5.
Yeah. But I mean, even then, that's a good chunk of change from somebody who was, bought a route, right, and worked your way up in companies, and now you're like, okay, this is cool. What was that peak month where it just, you sat back and you saw the revenue coming in, you thought, oh, this is getting
2022 real. In October 2022. Good question. I think it was like, about summer of 2022, I remembered. 21 was, okay, so let me back up. So we did all this in 2020. In 2021, it was really nice to work and have income that I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I can do something with this. This is kind of nice.
Yeah.
It's like, man, my wife, we're going to have more dinner dates, right? She's going to fall in love with me all over again. And then I'm like, then 2022, it started getting serious where the revenue, I'm like, you had to do a double take on it. You're like, wait a second. So we used to do like, because the margins were so high, like even doing $300-$400 a day, a couple packages sent to the post office, to the customer's house, to 1,000 a day, to 2,000 a day, to 4,000 a day, to 7,000 a day, to 9,000 a day. And then, we run into supply chain issues, we run into quality issues, and then you look at it, you say, you learn a lot very quickly because you're forced again for something that went viral that you didn't think that was going to happen. So the supply wasn't there and the demand was too high.
Yeah.
And that moment I had to make a choice. Stay in your career or you leave your career and you take the biggest leap of faith that anybody that goes into an entrepreneur wouldn't understand what I'm saying. You take a nice cushy, job, comfortable, medical, everything, taking care of cushy job. And you throw that out and then you take the biggest risk.
Yep.
But you have to. And that was in July of 2023. I had to leave because everything was scaling very quickly and you're wearing too many hats and you will physically burn out.
Yeah.
So then that was a moment. I guess 2022 fall was that oh shit moment. And then I got to do something about it and really focus on it in 2023 all the way. But 22 is when it was like, because I my parents were refugees from a war. We didn't have anything. Everything was from scratch. I didn't have extra boosters or extra supplemental income or anything. So everything was from scratch from the bottom. So when you do see that type of finances come in, you have to be very responsible. I didn't go off and start buying lavish stuff. I lived very frugal. I still live within my values. So, and that's where all the finances, and then that's where the evolution kept going. And then, that's where I went to the bar business.
Yep.
What is it? Had my bread business, got back in.
Yep.
And then so.
Where's the bread business at?
North of here, actually. I have a territory with a franchise again with Bimbo Bakeries.
Nice.
So I got in that back end. Fabulous guy takes care of that and leads it. And then, and we got a couple of things that are in the works too that are outside the bar once everything is automated. But yeah, you learn a lot. And you have to be
That's
very
awesome.
responsible with extra money and not be foolish with it. Because you may not get, I don't know. Everyone's life is different. I don't believe in a second chance in certain things because you may not get a second chance. So you got to make the maximize what's given to you. So
I should have come to you with my product. Not a lot of people know this, so I'm going to reveal something.
Oh man, here we go.
This is my first flame out of an idea as an entrepreneur. So when you first get that entrepreneurial itch, right? I'm like, I'm still working my job, but there's a product that I want to develop.
Okay.
And this was before shaker bottles or before all of this, right? It was called the Perfect Pour.
Okay.
And I designed and 3D printed like a model of a scooper for protein, and you could just pull the handle back and it would drop it into a water bottle. I thought to myself, like, I have nailed it, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Because my thought is if I could get every company to replace their current scooper with mine, it's great. Again, this was before everything. So this is the days where people were working out at LA Fitness. When I say people, I mean me. Working at LA Fitness going, how do I get protein into this plastic water bottle?
Yeah.
Nowadays, people are like, I can't believe you use plastic water bottles, Ryan. There's microplastics everywhere.
BPA, especially you didn't do a BPA.
Let me tell you what, growing up, I had a case of water in my car and it heated up and then I cooled it back down. I probably drank so much plastic from that. Anyway, I thought to myself, like, you're carrying around a water bottle in the gym.
Yeah, all the time.
This was before shaker bottles, before all this.
Right.
And I was like, how do I get protein in this? I just want protein and water.
Right.
And so instead of folding up the flyers at LA Fitness, you roll up the flyers at LA Fitness, then you dump the...
And then it falls out on the side.
Yeah, or I have like a little bag of protein powder in the gym. You rip off a little corn and you're like trying to dump...
Yeah.
It's like, this would be great. And so I actually got in front of like a really big company out of just, I think, pure... tenacity, blessing, luck, whatever you want to call it.
Okay.
I had been reaching out to companies, and this was like a premier company. Like, I'm not allowed to say still. Well, maybe I don't know. It was a major provider of protein.
Wow.
And I was like, this is my moment. So I'm on the call with them, right? Dude, I'm like,
wait, when was this?
I'm like 23.
Oh,
this is after college while I'm working my first job.
Okay, yeah.
And I'm on the call with them, like, this is going to be my moment, right?
Wow.
And so I'm on the call, I'm pitching it.
Yeah.
In my head, I'm doing a phenomenal job. Like in my head at 23 or 24, whatever, I'm like, this is it. This is it. And their first response was like, hey, Ryan, thank you so much for sending this over. Mind you, I own the utility patent. Like I went through the whole deal.
Oh, wow.
So I get married and I tell my wife, I want to take some money and do it on this product.
Right.
She was very supportive, but again, looking rearview mirror, I'm like, I'm just married, we're just getting our life off. And I'm like, hey, babe, I'm going to take some money to go make this product. She was like, okay, like we talked through it. But anyway, so I'm on this call. I'm like, this is it. And like, thank you so much for your submission. Just so you know, we think that this would be a very valuable product. And again, I'm like, oh yeah,
okay.
Here we go. They said, but, and I went, oh no.
Oh,
it's an extra 1.2 cents your scooper to make than our scooper. Extra 1.2 cents.
Right.
And in my head, I'm like, that's a deal. You kidding me? Mine has a funnel. It's got a pull out. It's got all these things. And they're like, and because of those reasons, we can't do this.
Based off the extra.
I thought
the extra cost?
Yeah, 1.2 cents more, right? And when I did the math on it, I'm like, okay, it's millions of dollars because this is a company that's producing millions of canisters,
stuff like that.
They're like, the phase-in part of this process isn't going to work. What if it breaks because of user error? Like these are there's no value associated with what we're doing currently. It's a scooper. You can either like our scooper or you're not. But if we're going to be charging more to have a fancy scooper, right? There's a value proposition associated with it. There's an actual cost. There's all these things. And so they started rattling. And I was grateful that they showed me that. But that was intro 101 into business of like,
from supply chain standpoint.
I probably should have had a conversation with these cats before I spent all that money on research and development and patents and all these things, right?
Yes, sir.
And I had a moment. I was like, I can either make a revision, do utility patents, still pursue this, or I just started Striventa.
Oh, so
I was like, yeah, I just started Striventa. It was like, I don't know, maybe 4, 5, 6 months into it.
wow.
So I was like, I can't do both. I got to pick one. So I picked Striventa, which in hindsight, I'm like, thank goodness, because this whole product was destined for failure. And then literally like a year or two later, blender bottles and shakers come out, and I'm like, oh, I would have been toast.
Obsolete.
I would have been toast anyway.
The
but
technology,
it's fun to hear your story of the product and hitting the trends and the competitors and all these things, because I definitely did not do that. I just went head on, and I was like, I can outwork anybody. I can outwork anything, anyone. That's, I may not always be the brightest, but hey, I'm going to outwork and you can't outwork that.
You can't.
And then a year later, 2 years later, when the competition would have come in with blender bottles, I would have been just toast.
And those are all the things that down the line, like, so, you're motivated, you do it, and all of a sudden that happens.
Yeah.
Like you see, you're like, okay, what happens when everyone catches up?
Mm-hmm.
And I always learn. I always tell people all the time, it's like, be careful really quick when you're trying to buy something, you're trying to sell something, or you're trying to innovate, or you're trying to produce something that's not out there. Like, what if someone produces something better?
Yep.
Get into the public service and it comes down to if you're doing a brick and mortar or service, face to face, that it's going to come down to the line of execution under a brand. Like, you have to execute all the operations right to be successful.
Yeah,
and that's part A. Part B is then you got to make sure you're relevant through content and marketing.
Yep.
Like, if you don't, and that, again, that's falling, being like, oh, okay, it's like a situation where it's like, all right, you're doing the scooper, but then you're gonna run
so much more that goes into it.
It's so much, but something so clever, something so could be very revolutionary, is a little bit of a barrier in cost, and then a barrier of saying, or anticipation, I guess, of a barrier of like, in a few years, how is this gonna, like, how is my competitors going to respond if this thing takes off? And then secondly, like, what's my stake in it? Then you have the contract, then you have all this, and what kind of partners. So it's like all these rolling balls within this like circle. It's but the fact that, hey, okay, for you, it's like, all right, I got two choices to make, and either or, you were forcing yourself down an avenue anyway that you were going to trip, fall, get back up, and then learn. And so that's pretty good for you.
Well, and it was a fun learning experience. And about a year ago, I had gotten like an official email saying like my patent
expired.
Because it had been like, I don't know how long they're good for, right? But
it's only 10 years, I think, right?
Yeah, maybe 10 years. I don't know,
because it might be 10.
Yeah, I kept like extending it though, so. I don't know.
You still have it. You never know.
No, I don't. It lapsed finally. I think it was like last year or maybe 2 years ago. It lapsed, and it was like somebody else wants the patent, and I was like,
filed for it.
I was like, take it.
You better hope they don't come out, man.
No, so funny story. As I see this kid on social media promoting, he's like, I got the perfect pour, and my first thought was like, I'm so sorry, you have no idea what burden you just invested in.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Because I don't think it's a relevant product anymore. Like,
I know.
It's not. And I felt bad for the kid. I was like, oh no, but it was just crazy to see like
how comes around.
But I mean, good for the initiative on his end. Of course, I don't know him. I don't know anything. I just thought it was hysterical when I saw that reel. I was like, you have got to be kidding me.
Don't go that way. No.
You have got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
So, I mean, hey, if it takes off again, great. But anyway.
But no, that's good. That's
before I let you go too, I know we've covered a lot, but I always like to ask the question, of course, of like, what's one of the biggest lessons you've learned? And I know you've learned many. I'm not pigeonholing you to just say one, but somebody listening that's an entrepreneur, the wins you've had, the mistakes you've made, kind of everything that you walk through. What is just a piece of advice that you would give somebody listening to this, that's in that entrepreneurial shoes?
That's a great question. It's pretty deep. I would say that whatever you get yourself into, take a step back before you jump, research with everything, like when we grew up, we didn't have all this YouTube stuff, these Facebook reels. We just had Facebook and it was just that was it.
ChatGPT,
We had
Claude.
MySpace. I think we had MySpace also, right?
We did have MySpace, but then it quickly was like, if you're on MySpace, you're a creeper.
Yeah, that's right.
Like, nope, not anymore.
Yeah.
I think Facebook was like, I remember Facebook came out and I was like, I'm going to get a bunch of friends because I was running for like student government.
Yeah.
So I was like, that's how I'm going to use Facebook with my BlackBerry, right? With my little, but yeah, anyway.
I would say my biggest thing is, with what we have now in terms of information that's freely flowed across the world, take a step back, understand there's people that have done that, have pursued it, they've done it, they've succeeded, they failed, and go through, and they will have roadmaps. Everything out there at this point has some sort of roadmap, a system in place, a process, anything. If you want to go and, sell cars, or you want to get in a franchise, you want to do something private, you want to get in the insurance world, you want to, whatever. It doesn't matter what you do. Even if I think the same principle also applies if you want to be, go into something that you like, you want to be a marine biologist, you want to be a doctor, it doesn't matter. I think it's the same type of roadmap. I would definitely say before you jump and then place your money, because your money, set aside money and just pretend that that's going to burn through. Okay. Like, and don't save and then stress about like, okay, I'm going to put $10,000. I'm going to stress about, no, if you're going to put $10,000, pretend it's gone. Okay. Yeah. Don't sink in a good amount of money. Sink in some.
Yep.
Sure, in the beginning, but don't sink in a lot. And become a student first. Like, learn everything first. And if that means that you're not making anything for the first year or two, and really, if you're doing business, you may not make anything at all for the first 2 to 5 years. Who knows? Because that's usually what the investment average ROI for brick and mortar is 3 to 5 years before you get it back. Anything bigger, you might see that money up to 7 years. So, take a step back, understand why you're doing it. Assess who's going to also help you is very important. Family, friends, who's really going to back you up, because that goes a long ways too, with family, friends who support you mentally and physically. And I would definitely take a step back, understand what you're getting yourself into. Business has a very high risk of failure. People don't want to hear it, right? It's a very high failure rate, very. And you have to understand, if you can go in there, you're signing a contract with your soul that you're going to work endless to get it right. And if you're not willing to do that, don't do business, right? Just wait, figure out what you need to do in the meantime, but don't attempt it yet. In the meantime, in the beginning stages, just, put yourself together, a plan for yourself of what you need to succeed, not just the business, but the characteristics and the disciplines and the leadership, faith, all these other invisible tangibles that you're going to need to prepare you, like on a backpack into like a mountainous climb, that those are what's going to get you over the top, not the product. Yeah. It's the leadership, it's the integrity, it's the motivation, it's all this, the tenacity, the perseverance. Those is what ends up being the driver, the motor. Find out who you are first, because when you're starting out business, you don't even know who you are. This might not even be a compatible business for you. You got to make sure you do it. You actually must enjoy it, because if you enjoy it, you're going to run through the wall with it. Yep. So that's number one. Make sure you collect as much research data on what you're trying to do, who you are, and how you're going to do it. And then secondly, when that lines up, step 2 is just jump. Yep. Jump. You got plans. Well, I'm 40 years old, 50, I haven't got much time. No, you got plenty of time. It's never too late to start. Give it a shot. Just be careful in the spending. Don't be too foolish on that. But that would be my advice. And then, as you jump, because you have all these tangibles, you've done your research, then I think the rest of the way you just let, the road kind of just take you into the unknown, which is the funnest part, is venturing in the unknown, an unknown boundary. And that unknown boundary is going to help you grow to a whole different person. So it's all good intentions. So that's what I would probably say to myself if I had to do it all over again. Yeah. So, yeah.
I love it, man. Well, I feel like we could talk long. We'll have to have you on get an update on the businesses and
Yeah.
all that good jazz. But dude, thanks for
Yeah,
coming on.
appreciate it, bro. Yeah,
Appreciate
thanks for the
you.
invite.
Yeah, appreciate you sharing and being so transparent.
Yeah.